Hey guys, before we start this episode, I wanted to talk to you about Type 1 Lifting. So, Type 1 Lifting is a clothing line that proceeds of the shirts and tanks and everything else goes to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. So, this all came about with me and seeing a 5-year-old girl in the emergency department that had new onset of diabetes. So, just take a look at the website. It's www.type1lifting.com. So just check it out. If you don't buy anything, that's perfectly fine. I would just like for you just to take a look and just see what we have. So, like I said before, www.type1lifting.com. And guys, I hope you enjoy the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I have a very special guest, Christel Oerum, or Oren. Yeah, Oerum, that's it. All right, I got it. I'm so bad with last names, I'm sorry. But welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I like to start off with everybody, like, especially being the diabetics. So when did you get diagnosed, and pretty much what was it like being diagnosed when on the early ages?
So, well, I was diagnosed at 19. So I wasn't super young, but, young enough, I guess. So I was diagnosed in 97, at 19, and it was an interesting experience. I think for everybody is an interesting experience. But basically, I grew up in Denmark. So back then, I was still back in Denmark. I had all the usual symptoms. I was super thirsty. I had to run to the restroom all the time. Mm-hmm. I was tired. I would at that point, in Denmark, we graduated high school at 19. So I graduated high school. I was taking a sabbatical. I was working, saving up money to go traveling around the world. So I worked in a daycare, and I kept falling asleep with the kids. In the sense that, you're not supposed to do that when you're supposed to watch the kids, right?
Yeah.
And I kept falling asleep at work, and it was not good. And this was in December, and my family kind of started noticing. They were like, you know what? This is not normal. This is not normal at all. You need to go get checked out. And I went to my primary care. My primary care doctor, he gave me the whole speech. He's like, so you need to exercise. You need to sleep, right? And at this point, again, I was 19, out of high school, taking a sabbatical. I was partying hard. Mm-hmm. I was having a lot of fun. I was eating a box of ice cream at night and not gaining weight. And life was perfect. And I could explain everything. I was tired because I was partying hard. I was super thirsty for whatever reason. So, I don't know. And I went to the restroom all the time because I was drinking all the time. I could explain everything. Mm-hmm. And my doctor, after giving me the speak, he was like, well, let me just measure your blood sugar. So he took a finger prick in the office, and my blood sugar was outrageous. I don't even know what it was. And he diagnosed me with diabetes right there. I knew nothing about diabetes. I knew no family members lived with diabetes or anything like that. So he might have explained it to me. I clearly didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Because I remember going home from that appointment, actually biking home on my bicycle, because that's what we do in Denmark, thinking I just been handed a death sentence. I thought I was dying. Short bike ride home. I get home. My mom is home. My mom is a nurse. I was still living at home at that time. And she, could explain to me, you're not dying from this, not now. Which kind of calmed me down. And then this was a Friday, and we went to see a specialist in a specialist clinic that Monday after, which still blows my mind that he would send me home on my bicycle with high blood sugars. He clearly must have known I was type 1.
Yeah.
But he clearly wasn't that worried, I guess.
Your blood sugar must have not been that high, I guess. I don't know if he's going to let you bike ride home, so.
I don't know. Or maybe he didn't know. I don't know. One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of primary care doctors don't have a whole lot of knowledge about diabetes. Mm-hmm. Some do, definitely, and some have a high level knowledge. And maybe you probably didn't think about DKA being a possibility or anything like that. I don't know. But he sent me home, and I was home for the whole weekend. And then Monday morning, Mom and I went to the specialist clinic. And I was lucky. I lived 10, 15 minutes from one of the best clinics in Europe. And I got there, and I was assigned a pediatric nurse. Because apparently you switch at 20. Mm-hmm. So I had a year with a pediatric nurse. And she was amazing. I wish everyone... So her name was Lauder. And I still remember her because what she did was she kind of sat me down. Well, she gave me all the education. She sat me down. She's like, you know what? And I'm rephrasing her wording because she later told me that's not what she said. But what I heard her say was, you know what? Diabetes sucks. But there's nothing you can't do with this condition. And she was kind of like the first one to sit me down and tell me this. And as I said, I was on a sabbatical because I was like trying to make enough money to go travel the world. I wanted to travel around India, like backpacking around India. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there with this diagnosis. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't go. She's like, look at me. I'm like, of course you're going. So within a year of my diagnosis, I was backpacking around India. And it didn't go as planned. But, I was so glad I went. And I'm so glad that I met a medical professional who instilled that in me. Go like, of course you can. Mm-hmm. Because I took that with me, and it's been the way that I've been living my life for the last, I'll be coming out of 23 years this December.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, it's funny because like when I first got diagnosed, like I still had no clue about the lancets and how to change it or whatnot, and like it got to the point where like the lancets would get stuck in my fingers because I use them because they're so blunt. It's like I didn't know what I was doing. Like no one told me what to do, and it was funny. I was asking like other diabetics on social media, pretty much, and like what to do, and especially with like the gauges of the lancets. I was like, oh, I usually use like an 8 on the number, like the number thing, and my coworker's like, you use an 8 because she had pregnancy. She had diabetes like when she was pregnant. So. Yeah. Gestational diabetes, yes. And then, so she's like, no, that's the pressure of the needle. That's the pressure of the lancet going into you. And I was like, oh, I thought that was how many times you need to use it.
Oh.
So it's like it's because like me getting diagnosed so later on in life, like they think, oh, you must know what you're doing. You're in the medical field. You're good. So, but I was like, I have no clue what's going on.
It's one of the things. Like I think. So when we're first diagnosed, I think they could probably have told you, they might even have told you this, but there's a lot of things that I think it's hard to take out in everything. So you walk out of the appointment. So I didn't stay overnight at the facility. They still sent me home, but they did check in on me every night. Mm-hmm. So that was a little different than when my doctor sent me home. But I think you walk away from that first few days and you only remember snippets. And I think like a continued education, especially when it comes to diabetes, is super important.
Yes.
And I think we have now with the internet and all, we have more opportunity to continue to learn. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't seem like they figure out a whole lot of new things about diabetes, but a lot of things that they've known for a long time. I think we all have to relearn or just learn for the first time, I guess.
Yeah. So when you got diagnosed at 19, so were you? Obviously you were able to travel a little bit, but like, what was it like? Were you still trying to party a little bit, or like was there like a little bit of change of, your lifestyle at all, or what was it like?
I just kept going. It's one of those things, right? I think I really do believe that there's nothing we can't do that, with diabetes. I think we can do the same things that everyone else as long as we're smart about it. Mm-hmm. So that means, back then, that was before CGMs. Okay, so I was only doing finger sticks. Was my care as good as it is today? No, not at all. But not necessarily because I didn't want it to be, but rather because I didn't have the information of what does optimal care look like, mm-hmm. and how do I get there. So what I did was I didn't neglect my diabetes, but I just went off what I learned back then, which was you keep measuring your blood sugars, you take your insulin, And if you measure blood sugar again, it's too high or too low, then you do something about that, right? So I didn't do carb counting. I just looked at plates and went like, you know, 20 grams, 40 grams, or whatever. Since I didn't necessarily do carb counting, actually, I probably didn't even go 20 grams. I just looked at food and go like, 4 units or 5 units or whatever, right? So it wasn't super refined. And I think my A1Cs back then were probably in the 8s, which is, I mean, it's not horrendous, but it's definitely not what I today would consider being, you know, good diabetes management for me. So I think, again, based on that, no, I still traveled. I still, you know, got an education. I still did all the things that I wanted. And I think one of the things for me has always been important is that none of the things I've done in my life, okay, let's rephrase that. Most of the things I've done in my life has not been because of diabetes. It's just been because I wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I can always find a way to manage my diabetes around what it is that I want to do.
Yeah. So when you were traveling, did you let people know that, like, hey, I'm a diabetic. If something happens, you know, help me out or something like that?
Kind of depends. So that trip to India, backpacking through India, I was traveling with a girlfriend, and she actually went to the clinic with me. She got a full education on, okay, what do? You know, how to use a glucagon, all those things. But aside from that, I kind of kept diabetes pretty, you know, on the down low, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
All the way up until maybe 2014.
Yeah.
So for a really long time. Not because I was ashamed or I don't even think I realized there was a stigma around diabetes because my head was never really there.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly because I was like, well, this is for me to deal with. And I was asthmatic as a child. I remember I didn't tell people I had asthma either. So, but I know it's different. Because, you know, but it was just, that was where my head was at.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of kept that to myself. I didn't really look for others living with diabetes, and I just lived.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it was the complete opposite. So once I became a diabetic, I was like, following diabetes people, like immediately, like just started like talking about it to like patients when I was working in the emergency room, and pretty much like, yeah, we'd had all diabetics come, like we had a bunch of diabetics that come in like a boatload of times, like probably like multiple times in a week, because like we had one kid, he realized like, you know, he could drink a bottle of Mountain Dew and lose weight just because he was high blood sugar and pretty much pee it all away. And I'd be like, would talk to him and say, buddy, you're gonna like lose your feet, or like worst case scenario, you can die from this. Like, so, you know, quit being stupid. But, you know, I think for me, when I was working there, I was just trying to, you know, show kids like, hey, you know, I have it. It's okay. You know, it's a crappy disease, but you can live with it.
Yeah. I think it's also the difference is I was diagnosed in 97.
Yeah.
So back then, I mean, I didn't even have a cell phone.
Yeah.
I sound really old. But that's okay.
I'm right up there with you. Don't worry.
It was just a different time, right? Because you wouldn't just go on Google and Google diabetes necessarily. I mean, there was no Instagram, which is now my favorite platform, right? I don't even know when Facebook came out, but there was not really a whole lot of places to find others.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about looking for others. And that's something that I can. Now, whenever I talk to people who are, you know, who live with diabetes, it's like, yes, you can do type 1 alone, but you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're out there, and we're out there for you. And if you want support or just somebody to talk to who gets it, we're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't think I start to realize, you know, that how powerful those conversations can be. Until, first of all, I started, so as I said, I got an education. I actually started out working in the diabetes industry. I did corporate Denmark and then corporate America for a long time before I ended up where I am now. And the first company I worked for was as a big Danish company that you might know called Novo Nordisk.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the largest manufacturers of insulin. And it's interesting working there because all of a sudden I started to meet all these other people living with diabetes, because we, for some reason, tend to like swarm to these companies that work, that manufactures diabetes products. And all of a sudden I start to meet others and start to have these conversations, just like a small conversation, like, oh my goodness, whenever I vacuum, I go low. And people are like, oh my God, me too. And I think it's, having these conversations where you go, oh my gosh, it's not just me. And it was interesting because it sounds like a small thing, but I think just having those conversations, all of a sudden, like, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Yeah.
I can actually learn from others.
Yeah, even if they're like really silly, like the one you just said about vacuuming. Like it's just something to talk about, and like you're just feeling like you're not alone, which is awesome. So
and an instant connection.
Yeah. Yeah, which is cool. I always like seeing diabetics like out in the wild that I don't know, and I see them at the grocery store or like eating dinner, and it's like I've kind of put the pause on, like, running up to people and talking to them. So it's just like, I'll let them be, because some of them might not like me going up to them and, saying, hey, what's going on? I'm a diabetic too. Or, and I'll ask them questions. Like if it's a new device that I've never seen, like the Omnipod, I was really interested in. I was like, hey, do you like this? Or like, what are your thoughts? Yeah. And they would actually talk to me about it, and they'd be like super happy about it. They're like, oh, I love it, I hate it, or, tell me. So it's good to hear other people's views as well, especially.
Yeah, I think one of my coolest stories down the line. So, to those who don't know me, in 2019, I moved to the U.S. I now live in the U.S. I live in California. And I live in pretty much on the beach, which is amazing.
I'm jealous, super jealous.
So, yes. No, I was like, yes. No, I love it down here. It's amazing. And one of the best stories, I think, is I was out walking, an afternoon stroll with my husband and my dog, and we're walking along the beach. And at one point, the beach is like fairly close to the road. Mm-hmm. And I wear a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor I usually wear them on my arms. It's not where it's FDA approved for, but it's where I prefer to wear it. So I wear that on my arm, and we're just walking, and all of a sudden this minivan like comes to a halt, and out jumps this dude, and he comes like running towards us. And my husband and I go like, "What is going on?" Because he's like storming out of the van, running towards us, and we're like, "Okay, what's going on?" And he stops us. He's like, "What is that on your arm?" And we start having this conversation. Turns out he has his whole family in the van. So his wife and his 3 children, including his, I think he was 7 or 9-year-old daughter who lives in Taiwan. And they were a family from Saudi Arabia who are on vacation in the U.S.
Oh, cool.
And he just recognized that was a diabetes device. He had me like come over and meet his daughter and see her pump and have this whole conversation. So I think our devices can definitely bring us together.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. I mean, that's also, I think, the days where I do mind, I'll wear a long sleeve shirt.
Yeah.
If I don't want to talk about it, because I don't always want to like discuss my diabetes with strangers. Mm-hmm. But I thought that one was pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't have a CGM or anything like that. So people, other than wearing my Type 1 lifting shirts like everywhere, like they don't know that I'm a diabetic whatsoever, or they just think Type 1 lifting is like some random like shirt company or whatever. It's nothing to do with diabetes. And they're like, oh, what's this? And I have to tell them what it is. And they're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, for me, I don't have a problem like talking to anybody. That's just, I love talking to people, hence this podcast. So I mean, it's just, I just love like listening to other people's stories and just like, just their issues and all that stuff. So
yeah,
but
I think it's okay to have some days where you're like, well,
yeah,
today I just want to be something else, or just not be like, I don't even know how to say that.
Yeah, that's me in the gym once in a while. Like if I work out, I'm like, listen, I need to get all this stuff done before I leave, so just don't talk to me. Or like people try to walk up to me like mid workout, and I'm like sweating like profusely, like huffing and puffing all over the place, and they're like, I'm like, just not now, just leave me alone. So
I think I have I've been told, I don't know if people get this wrong, but I've been told I have a face that can sometimes tell people to not bother me. So I rarely have that issue at the gym, actually. It's it is one of those things where I successfully have, like, taught my fellow gym members that leave me alone when I work out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. So you're a diabetes coach, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that is one of my many roles.
So how did you get involved in that?
So, well, I was kind of alluding to it in the sense that I said, I wasn't really talking about my diabetes until 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened in 2014, and this is kind of like a longer story, but what happened in 2014 was that was the year I competed in my first fitness show.
Okay.
So I was a bikini competitor for a few years. So as I prepared for that show in 2014, so preparation obviously started earlier, so throughout 13, I kind of realized how incredibly difficult exercise and diabetes can be.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it challenging, because I didn't have the right tools, in the sense that I didn't have the right knowledge at that point. All I had was a pamphlet I'd been given at one point by a doctor, said eat 15 grams of carbs. It's like, this is amazing, not helpful. But it's, not helpful, because you don't always need carbs. Sometimes you need more insulin, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
depending on type of exercise. So I am very analytical. That's how my brain is wired. As I said, I worked for diabetes companies throughout my corporate career. And I was like, well, this can't be that hard. Let's figure it out. So at that point, I did have Google. Went to Google, started to search. I couldn't really find any information on how to do exercise, specifically bodybuilding or resistance training and diabetes successfully.
Mm-hmm.
I found like a few like super duper scientific articles, the ones where I had to have a dictionary or like say Google open on the other side of the screen just to figure out what the heck I was reading. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to start documenting what I'm doing myself. So that is how my whole journey into the diabetes community and becoming a coach started, simply by me documenting what I was doing. And I did that. I started a small blog back then that has now become something completely different. But I started a small blog back then where I simply, journaling my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Again, structured brain, everything went into an Excel sheet. And I really quickly started to see, patterns. I'm like, oh my goodness, I actually managed to find what I call my formula for diabetes and exercise super quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was writing about that, and people were interested and people were reading it. So my husband, I was like, well, if I couldn't find the information, other people probably couldn't find the information. My voice actually matters. I have something I can share with folks.
Yeah.
So my husband and I started diabetesstrong.com, which is now our main platform. And it started out, as I said, fitness and diabetes, and now it's everything health and diabetes, and it's a free website. People should definitely go check it out. And, as I wrote more and more there, I actually went away from, so we have a lot of professional writers that write for us there.
Mm-hmm.
And I went more into, well, I still want to work one-on-one with people, because helping people find their formula, I get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Because one of those things I often hear people say is that, a lot of people tell me, well, diabetes is random. And I completely disagree. The reason why I disagree is that I don't think our bodies are random. Our bodies are reacting as bodies should. Mm-hmm. However, the reason why it seems random is most people don't have enough, and when we get back to the same thing again, information, not knowledge.
Yep.
And we don't, and then, on top of that, we don't have full information, in the sense that we will never know every little single thing going on in our bodies. So if you don't understand the basics, because nobody's actually ever taken the time to sit down and give you the knowledge,
mm-hmm. and
you also have these things going on in your body that you don't know, that it seems random. So that was a long story. So
that's okay. No, go for it. Yeah.
I ended up, doing what I'm doing, and I left the corporate world back in 2015. And that's kind of like, I think, me starting to talk more about my diabetes was exactly that. You're realizing that my voice can make a difference. Mm-hmm. My voice can help somebody. And the website, diabetesstrong.com, is a completely free website. That's one of the things where I was like, well, knowledge, I don't want money to be a barrier for people to get knowledge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So the website's set up so you can go there and it's all free. If you want to work with me one-on-one, that's a little different.
Yeah. It's like the Gary V. You know Gary V? You ever heard of him?
Gary V.
Yeah, he's this like serial entrepreneur, and he's like a social media guru. So he always talks about like, give, and then ask for something. So it's pretty much like you're giving out free information about your diabetes experience, and then like the one-on-one coaching is like the, okay, ask if people want to work with you.
Well, yeah, and I don't think, not everybody needs that.
Yeah.
And not everybody will, benefit from working with me, in the sense that we're all different individuals, and some people will do really well with my approach, while somebody might do really well with somebody else's approach. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love that we don't have a lot of, I would say, fitness experts in the diabetes space, like yourself and myself, but we do have some.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the cool thing about having maybe a handful or more is that people can go and search and find the one that suits their needs and suits their personality.
Yeah.
It's what I specialize in is I love resistance training. I think resistance training is super fun.
Yep.
And just that's driven by my own passion, right? And leisure exercise. But if people come to me and go like, "Hey, I want to run a marathon," I'm like, "That's great. I'll send you to somebody else."
Yeah.
Because that's not my expertise.
Yeah.
I can tell you the high level theory, but I can't get down into the nitty gritties about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same thing if somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, I need a detailed nutrition plan," or something like that. I'll be like, "That's great. I'm so not qualified to give you that," and I'll send them somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like it's the same with mental health. I think it's very important that we in this community are also willing to, send people to the right resources.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I always tell, when I was training, I always, like, if someone would ask me like I want to do, like you said, run a marathon and stuff like that, like that's not my specialty whatsoever. Like mm-hmm. That's not my thing. So I would definitely like bring them someplace. It's like send them to another person that knows that position well. So with your clients, so what was it like getting your first client?
Well, back then, when I started to work with folks, so I am a certified personal trainer as well. I should add that. So that was the type of clients I started out with. I mm-hmm. started out doing personal online training and in person as well here in Santa Monica. And it was more focused on, developing training programs and then talking about blood sugar management for these type of plans. I don't even remember how my first found me. I think the first found me through just through the website.
Yep.
If you go on Diabetes Strong, you'll see my face all over. Mm-hmm. And I also mentioned, my coaching through there. So that was kind of how it started out. I at one point realized that was not giving me joy.
Yeah.
To be, completely honest, it was not really, it wasn't doing it for me. Mm-hmm. So I decided to change my coaching offerings so that I could focus on something that I know I'm really good at, and that's structure.
Yeah.
And something where I know that people can walk away with unique and valuable information. Mm-hmm. And it's so important for me that people have, that people walk away with more knowledge and that they're successful.
Yep.
If people don't do that, then I'm not successful.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Yeah. So that was a big shift for me. And I did that, I think, a year and a half ago. So that's fairly recent.
Okay. So how many clients do you have right now?
I keep my client level, let's say that, fairly low, because my main gig is still the website.
Yeah.
So I have a few regulars, but I don't see more than maybe 4 a week.
Okay. Yeah.
And that goes from everything from half an hour sessions to 45-minute sessions.
Okay. All right.
So it's what I said. The way I set it up is that, well, I can always custom things, but my main modules, and anybody who's interested can go to my website and just click on beach coaching, and the modules are described there. But my main modules are 2 times 45 minutes, and I always say I give people homework because I'm very data driven. Everything I do is data driven. So if they don't do the homework, in the sense of like actually collecting, measuring blood sugars, looking for patterns, etc. If we don't do that homework, then everything is theory. Theory is great, but we're also all very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I can sit here and say, well, aerobic exercise will generally make blood sugars drop. Okay, great. That's very general.
Yeah.
What time of day, are you usually exercising? And how much will it actually decrease your blood sugar, and all these things. And you can only really figure that out if you do your homework and you write things down.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I'll have people that sign up for, finding a formula. I'll have them do their homework. I have like a tracking sheet, which actually is also free on the website. So
everything's on the website.
Basically. But a tracking sheet that people can use. And what I usually do is I start out with, again, back to the basics. We talk the knowledge. What is anaerobic exercise? What's aerobic exercise? How does it impact blood sugars? What are the different strategies that you can implement? And start talking through all the theory. Mm-hmm. And when you're done with the theory, then you can start to apply, well, how does this theory apply to you as an individual?
Yeah.
So how does this, apply to Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone I've ever worked with has walked away with new knowledge.
Yep. I mean, that's what's supposed. I mean, for me, that's what usually happens. Like, I always try to make sure my clients, if I ever left, or like if they didn't work with anymore, they actually understood, what I was doing, and because if they don't know what they're doing after I'm done with them, it was pointless.
Yep, exactly. I always tell folks, like, this is a really bad business model, but my goal is for you to not come back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, this is the worst business model ever. But again, it's not. That is really the goal. The goal is to teach people methods, so that they can go back, either make their diabetes management adjustments themselves, or have enough information that they can actually go to their doctors and have an informed conversation about, well, how should I change my diabetes management so that I can successfully, work out without high or low blood sugars.
Mm-hmm.
Also should point that you, of course, can't eliminate high or low blood sugars. You can reduce the risk of them.
Yeah.
Because this is diabetes.
Yeah. So one of the issues I have with, like, people asking me, especially with, like, doing CrossFit workouts, some people have a tendency to get, like, high blood sugars, and obviously, that could be like the fight or flight issue, like their hormones are all jacked up and stuff like that. And, like, what would you do to, let's just say, if it's a person that does CrossFit in, like, the afternoon, like, what would you tell them to, do to get their blood sugars at a normal level, like, after working out, or even before?
Well, that's a complex question.
Yeah.
Complex question, right? In the sense that I think first thing is figuring out, how does your blood sugars generally react to this kind of exercise? Again, afternoons, we're usually a little more insulin sensitive than we are in the mornings. So are your blood sugars dropping? Are they increasing? And at what time do they start to increase or decrease? So what I would have people do is at least, track it for 3 days as a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Because one data point is just one data point. Two data points doesn't really tell us a whole lot. 3, we start hopefully to see a pattern.
Yeah.
And what I'll have people write down is, like, what did you eat? How much insulin do you have on board? IOB. IOB is probably the most important factor of everything when it comes to exercise, and most people don't look at it. And I think that's a huge mistake, because IOB basically stands for how much insulin do you have left in your body from any injections or pump injections. So I would have them do that, and then we'd start to look for patterns. So let's say that we see a decrease for some reason for this exercise. Well, then we need to look at how do you adjust your insulin so that you maybe have a little bit less insulin on board during your workout, or you can up your carbohydrates. That basically you have two levers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can change your insulin or your food, or your carbohydrates. If you tend to go high during or after your workout, then what do? Right?
Obviously, you take a little bit of insulin just to kind of get it down a little bit.
Well, yeah, but there's also the timing, right?
Yeah.
Because the reason why the type of exercise that often make people go high, you know this, is an aerobic exercise. So that's like your resistance training. For some people, your CrossFit or your boot camps or your sprint training.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, blood sugars will increase during the workout, maybe, and actually it's been shown to increase insulin resistance for up to 2 hours after workouts. However, insulin sensitivity is improved dramatically in the 12 to 24, even some people even up to 48 hours after.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that we need to be very careful and not just like do a really aggressive correction during and right after your workout, because then you risk like really low blood sugars after. So this is not easy. Mm-hmm. But the way, again, I would do it is simply break it down and have people go like, okay, knowing all these things, and then knowing how your blood sugars generally react, then you can start to slowly adjust. And if people are not self-managed, so I'm self-managed, meaning that I don't I don't go to my endo every time I make an adjustment to my care. I just do it myself.
Yeah.
Not everybody's self-managed. Some people rely really heavily on their medical team for basal adjustments or for like general dose adjustments. So the thing is, if a person like that just shows up with a medical team, go like, hey, my blood sugars go high, what should I do? That's not really enough information for your medical team to have to go off in order to help you improve your care.
Yeah. Yep.
So if nothing else, then walking out of the session, people will learn, well, what is the information that you need to bring to the doctor so that the doctor can help them, adjust their insulin.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, to circle back to your question about how do you deal with an afternoon.
Well, it's not for me, pretty much. I'm an early bird guy, so.
Okay. But let's say that it was myself. I know, so again, we talked about resistance training being my passion.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for me, I always eat before, because I want to, and I eat carbohydrates and protein. I always eat before a workout because, first of all, I want to be able to perform in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we tend to forget that. We tend to only focus on blood sugars and not on actual gym performance, which is a shame. The same thing, I'm hungry and my blood sugar is low. We're like, let's just eat if we're hungry. Right?
Yeah.
But I tend to eat before, both for performance, but also to reduce the amount of glucose my liver is going to spit out to help me, get through the workout.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I take a full dose of insulin for that meal. Sometimes I even take a little bit more because I want to go into my workout with enough IOB, insulin on board, to not see that insane increase in my blood sugars that I know my body will give me if I don't have enough insulin or food on board.
Yeah.
I sometimes also do a small correction after. But if I do that, I won't give myself 100% of the correction. So maybe I'll do like 50%.
Yeah.
Note. That is me. That is how Christel managed her blood sugars. That you can't necessarily just apply that to everyone else, right? The guidelines. So if anybody's interested in reading sort of the first official guidelines that came out on exercise, those can be found in The Lancet in 2017, from January 2017. And I know this date because that was the first time I actually saw guidance on how to manage your blood sugars with type 1. Mm-hmm. Like, yay, now I have a footnote for all my writings. This is awesome. Because it was completely in line with what I already knew. But that was the first time those guidelines. So look that up. And there you'll actually see that all the guidelines say, well, when we talk about insulin reduction or increase for exercise, it's always like 25 to 75%. which is a huge range.
Yeah.
But what they also say is this is a starting point, and you need to figure out what's the right amount for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to add to that, what time of day it is as well. To your point, you said you're an early bird. Well, you might need more of a correction in the morning versus if you go in the afternoon.
Yeah. So what I usually do is I kind of like do in like intermittent, like not an intermittent fasting, but I'll do a fast. Like I won't eat till like 7 o'clock. I'll be done eating after 7. And then I won't eat till like 8:30 the next morning. And I'm working out from like 5:30 to, well, maybe like 6 to 7:30, like an hour and a half. So, but I'll be taking breaks and like checking and just making sure that like, I'm surprisingly, I mean, knock on wood, I mean, I haven't had a low blood sugar at all, like while working out in the mornings. So,
oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. That's also when you're the most insulin resistant. So you're generally, if people are very nervous about, going low, I would say that's a good place to, start with workouts in the morning. Although I still believe that I'm really much a believer in the fact that, don't let the diabetes dictate your life.
Yeah.
But again, if it can help soothe your anxiety, sure, go for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if people come to me and go like, oh, but I only have time in the evening, it's like, then work out in the evening, and then you can figure out the diabetes.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you can't work out.
Yeah. Just don't make it as a crutch. That's the main thing. So.
Yeah, because I have met a lot of people now who come up to me and go like, oh, I can't exercise because of my diabetes. Which I'm like, that tells me that nobody has ever, again, taught you the basics.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, you can. You just haven't been taught how.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been given a pamphlet that says eat 15 grams of carbs, that might be why. And if you haven't found the resources online yet. I'd say that, during the last few years, I've seen a lot more good resources online on how to do this.
Yeah.
So it's definitely improving.
Yeah, including your website.
Of course.
Yes. And so,
thank you.
so with your website, how many times do you post? Do you post like weekly, or like what's the rate of like when you post things, or do talks?
So it depends a little bit. We do post weekly. We post a combination of diabetes articles and recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of recipes on there now. We're still publishing new content in regards to diabetes, but we actually took over a new website back in June called Diabetic Foodie, which is a diabetes food website,
mm-hmm.
obviously Diabetic Foodie,
that's
been around for a good 10 years. So we're working on that, and we're only a 2-man team, full-time team. So we had to like channel our resources a little bit around. But still publishing on Diabetes Strong, and we have, I don't even know how many articles now. We have a big library.
I mean, which is good. So, which is really good.
And we do have a search function.
Yes.
You can just go on there and search and look up what you're looking for. And I think it's one of the things is, back when I started out, yes, it was a blog. It was my personal journey. If you go on there now, you'll see that's not the case anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It is, when I say we have professional writers, that means it's all with journalistic, approach. It's still written by people living with diabetes, because that's been a stick for me ever since the beginning. Is I want it to be a place where people living with diabetes, any type of diabetes. I think we can all, learn from each other, but any type of diabetes can go and read material written for them. This is not, you won't go there and read an article or it's a doctor talking at you.
Yeah.
I think we get enough of that on WebMD and wherever we go.
Yep.
This is, other people who lived it, who've been in your shoes. And I just think it's more, it just gives you a different angle.
Yeah. So I kind of want to go towards your Instagram page and how it's like amazing. So I like it. And plus you have a huge following too, which is awesome. So
thank you.
So and I know that's your like little favorite, social media platform that you like to use. So like when did you get that huge jump in followers? Was that like when you first started the website, or?
So I actually started that Instagram account because of the website.
Yeah.
So because of the website, and it is my business, the website. That's, it's my livelihood. And I was like, well, we should have, the social media channel that goes with it. And that's why I started Diabetes Strong, the Instagram account. And it's Diabetes Strong _IG, which is annoying, but Diabetes Strong was taken once we finally got to Instagram. And it's turned into something slightly different, because what I thought it would first be would be like, okay, let me just post the articles from the website. And then it turned into me showing, life with diabetes and what that can look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, taking that sort of more personal approach, and this is not necessarily strategic. I was just having a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, this is me hiking.
Yeah.
This is me like doing this. And now I'm somewhere else doing something else. And I'm lifting weights. And just showing that and realizing again, I think this is like this double whammy, and realizing that my voice matters, in the sense that I have people reaching out to me. I actually think it's one of the most powerful things is when it's parents or it's newly diagnosed who reach out and go like, wow, okay, so I can live a normal life.
Yep.
Or a healthy, normal life. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that that's what's shining through on that account. So I think the way that it grew, so I've never bought a like or a follower, because I don't see the point.
I wouldn't expect you to do that, so.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
That's probably me missing something.
Well, for interrupting, so I really think it is. So when people want to be like social media influencers, they actually want to get those followings. So they have brands that want to promote on their page. And so here's the problem, though. They have a huge following, but yet the likes are so little. So they have to buy likes, too, just to kind of counteract. Because there's supposedly there's some sort of math about saying that like 10% of your following should be like your likes on your each post. And so that's why they just want to be a social media influencer.
Yeah.
And, get free brands and stuff like that, saying, oh, look at me, I'm part of this nutrition program, or, I'm a supplement person, so.
Yeah, that was never really my goal. So the whole influencer branding is kind of something that's come to the scene the last year and a half, I think, in the diabetes space.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been told now several times that I'm an influencer. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you
sure.
are. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I understand it in the sense that, it's my account is one of the larger ones in the diabetes space. So in that sense, I'm completely on board. And I think, if me saying and me showing you can live a full life with diabetes is influencing, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
And I think it is.
Yeah.
And so I think.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
So yeah, I like the emails that. Well, I mean, I have like a smaller following compared to you, so I'm like at least 21,000 off of you. So, but I do love the emails that you get from people and be like, thank you for doing this, or this is the first time seeing your page and this is awesome, and it just feels like you're actually doing something good.
Yeah, for sure, it really is, and I think it's important also we also goof around,
Yeah.
Like sometimes I post memes and stuff like that, and it's just, first of all, it's showing again life with diabetes, what it can look like, but it's also creating a form of sort of community.
Yeah.
I actually also like sometimes when you see people having, side conversations in the comments with each other. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And just also the ability to connect people, and when people reach out to, send them to the right resources, or, just confirm that. Like somebody was telling me that her endo, every time she saw her endo, she left there crying. I'm like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay. And that person just needed somebody to say, that's not okay. To be like, okay, maybe I need to go and find somebody who can actually offer me the care I need.
Yeah.
That was a little darker, but
no, it's okay.
I think diabetes is hard.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard for some people, and just being able to reach out. And it's really easy to reach out on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to reach out and actually somebody answers,
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, that's the best. That's the best thing.
Awesome.
So I know in California we're gonna venture off in fitness now. So
Yes.
I know California's closed all her gyms. So
Mhm.
what has your training been like working from inside the house?
Yeah. So when I first moved to California, I want to add this first, just so we can completely set the pictures. Okay. So I moved here. I started out in San Francisco, moved down here to Santa Monica, which is part of Los Angeles, in 2011. And my husband and I ended up signing up at Gold's Gym. So down in Venice. This is
Cool.
like the original. This
Yeah,
is a bodybuilding
yeah.
gym. It's a super cool gym. I having so much fun there. I love that. I love that you see super uber duper fit people is like the ones on the fitness magazines, and you see, newbies who are starting out. And there's the whole shebang, and there's kind of a community there. And I love working out there. She said with COVID, gyms in California are now closed again. We had a 3-week stint where they were open, but then they closed them again because, well, there's a lot of people infected here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to switch to home workouts. It's not as fun. I mean, complete honesty, it's not as fun for me. We live in a 1-bedroom apartment, so we don't have a home gym. I have some dumbbells. I have a lot of bands, resistant bands. And I have like an aerobic stepper and stuff like that. So I can definitely do home workouts, and I can push myself. I miss the gym.
Yeah. I mean,
that's like complete honesty.
Yeah, working out by yourself is hard. And especially doing it at your house. I mean, I have a gym in my basement, and I have hard times sometimes getting motivated to work out. I completely understand.
Yeah, I compartmentalize things. I'm the same one. Like, this is where I work.
Yeah.
This is the gym I go to, and then and I would go like 6, sometimes 7 times a week to the gym, no problem, because it was a routine. I got up in the morning, I did the things I needed to do, walk the dog, and then I would go to the gym. And then I work in the afternoon and evening. And now all of a sudden the routine is uprooted, so I had to establish new routines, right? And it's, again, complete honesty, it's ebbs and flows. You can absolutely do a good workout at home. It's just a little different.
Yeah.
I obviously don't have a squat rack or anything like that. But I've learned that I can jump rope on my balcony, which actually works out.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of like unilateral exercises, meaning using one side at a time to try and sort of like push myself a little bit. And you can do a lot of things with resistant bands.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And they hurt.
Yes. Yes. I actually made a banded march platform off of like wood, like I had a 2x4, a piece of plywood, and I used eyelet screws, and I used a carabiner on both sides, and I put the band right on there and attached it to my weight belt, and so you just do banded marches off of that. I'll show it to you after this. So it literally, I think I paid probably like $20 for it, $25, $30.
That sounds like something you should start selling. I think there's a business model there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really. I actually got it off of someone else's Instagram page. So, but they used like a pipe and like chain to kind of like do like squats, but they would like it's a little bit different. But I mean, it's I'll show you. But it's pretty funny. Like it's pretty interesting how people find like different ways to work out, like finding like using wood and stuff like that. It's just pretty cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think especially now, it's hard to get fitness gear.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everything is sold out.
Yeah.
So I was pretty fortunate in the sense that we already had some stuff. We had something called Bowflex, which I really like because I can adjust them from like 5 pounds up to 52.5.
Yeah.
Each of them. So that helps. I don't need 50 pounds to do dumbbell,
Yeah.
To do crunches or anything like that. But, for squats, etc., it's nice. And again, I have my bands. So I can definitely do a full workout.
Yep.
What has been important for me is, and I think to your point about it can be hard, is to establish a routine.
Yeah.
So what I've done is, and again, this is a planner, and I'm a planner, and I'm a structurer, and all these things. I've been scheduling time on my calendar. I go like, okay, this time slot is set aside. That's when, I always call going to the gym playtime.
Yeah.
So this is playtime, and this is when, you get your stuff done.
Yep.
Same thing with stretching. This is stretching time. Stretching is not playtime. Stretching is just need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
Need to get done time. But just schedule those things in my calendar. That way I know the time is there, and I know when to go, and that's the way I make it happen.
Awesome. So I have 3 questions left because it's almost over. So I can only record for an hour in my little Anchor app. So so what's your all-time favorite book that you like to read or like to give out to like a present for your friends?
All-time favorite book. That's a good question. Actually, right now, I just dived in. So this is sci-fi.
Okay.
I just dived in and I read Dune for the first time. So Dune is, I think, 1957 or 62.
Yeah, it's like, an old one, yeah.
Yeah, it's an oldie but goodie. And that is good. I was so amazed how somebody, way back then could foresee the future to the degree that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it talks about the human mind in a really, really interesting way.
All right, cool. I haven't read it yet, so I remember it's out there. I know there's a movie too. It's like 4 or 5 hours long or something like that. So
supposedly there's another one coming out.
Oh, really?
It's supposed to come out this year.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. So, second question. So, obviously we kind of talked about it before, but where can people reach out to you, like via social media or like email or whatever?
So people can, if they want to know more about, for example, coaching, or just check out the website, go to diabetesstrong.com. There is a contact form there if you're interested in coaching. You can also find me on Instagram, as we talked about, diabetesstrong_IG. We actually also have a fairly big presence on Facebook. If people are more into Facebook, we have a Facebook group with 20-something members. Mm-hmm. So if you prefer pure support there, go there. You can always send me an email at contact@diabetesstrong.com. That one will get to me. Or, whatever, all the platforms, is always a contact me button.
Yeah.
Click that and write your message. I get back to everyone.
All right, awesome. And then last question. So what would you tell a new diabetic what to expect for the rest of their life?
What to expect would be consistent learning. Things are never going to be static. Mm-hmm. And there's always new tricks to add to your repertoire, in the sense that your diabetes toolkit is just going to grow. And then just from a mindset perspective, I think it's really important to roll with it, in the sense that it's going to be, again, things that you didn't foresee. There's going to be weird days, mm-hmm. and that's okay. Just accept there's going to be weird days, let it go, and tomorrow's a new day.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for doing this podcast. I really do appreciate it. And, I'd love to have you back on at another time, if that's cool with you.
Of course. Okay. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.